in the skies. They're calling it the Great Depression. The whole country is groaning under this huge economic crisis, under poverty and unemployment. The entire country? No sirree, Bob. In the Gulf region of the sunny South, black gold is bubbling incessantly out of the earth and is protecting the people from hardship. Well, at least those lucky enough to be sitting directly on top of an oil well. High time we became active in the crude oil industry ourselves. Oil is the best lubricant for our operations.
Welcome to Total Corruption Gaming with your host Eric Talon87 to JJ McGillicutty's transporting tycoon empire, where the only thing better than money is more money.
It's the 30s on the Gulf of Mexico. The Great Depression still hasn't passed, and we need to prevent President Franklin D. Roosevelt from plunging our beautiful country into socialist ruin. Let's prove that private ownership of production facilities still generates the most wealth, and that a self-regulating market is still the best way to go. Let's save capitalism. Extraordinary times call for extraordinary measures. Let's expand our area of operation. Let's become part of the oil industry ourselves and invest our profits in even more oil for the good of the country. This crisis is our opportunity.
All right, for the good of the country, we're about to make a lot of money. Let's get started.
Splendid! We've gotten our hands on a few decent plots. Not that the land is much to look at, it's what lies beneath that we're particularly interested in. We'll pump the crude oil reserves slumbering underground to the surface, process it into fuel, and transport it overseas from the port in Houston. Additionally, there's another lucrative business we can get involved in at the port. Goods from all over the world are just waiting for a forwarding agent to bring them to the people. We know all about that.
All right. So we have basically two commodities in this scenario. Well, two commodities that make a third. We have goods, we have crude oil, and crude oil gets made into fuel. So that's our three commodities. Fuel can be exported to all cities. However, if we export the fuel to the other cities, it will compete with us shipping the fuel out of the port. So we're going to avoid exporting any fuel to any other market besides the port market. Goods can be exported to everywhere on the map. One of the best places to export the goods is New Orleans. There is a mission later on to supply the city of New Orleans with goods. Plus, because it's such a long way, you get a lot of money for the goods exported. And since there's a limited amount of goods that can be exported, it's good to get the most bang for your buck. So we are going to put a railroad from New Orleans to Houston. And that is going to be our bread and butter system. So here we go. First thing we'll do, we're going to rearrange the area around this oil refinery because this is a very important place. This is basically the hub of our network. So we'll start with our two railroad stations. Make sure you get cargo. We're just going to keep them 160 meters. We're going to have no electric on this station at the bottom. We want to make sure it's connected to this oil refinery and also to the station that we're going to put on the other side of this area. Okay, make sure the two stations can switch goods and also connect to the refinery. So on this one we have electricity because it's possible to put an electric rail onto this one. However, on this line it is not because you cannot upgrade this one. I stand corrected. Never mind. Okay, we're going to rearrange probably a government entity that built those tracks to begin with, so we're going to rearrange that. Okay, we're going to get this road out of the way. So I prefer bringing up the goods from the port, to and from the port, using the railroad system. Because the railroad system has 4 bays, whereas the truck area only has 2 bays. Okay, so this system is complete. So the route we are going to take to export the goods to New Orleans is we're going to come up around this way. You can come up through here, and if you're going to stop at Lake Charles or Belmont, it's better to come through this way. However, we're going to go up through this way and simply stop at New Orleans. The most expensive part of this venture is the bridges, so you must be careful where you build them. They cost the most amount of money, and where you build them makes a big difference on how much they cost. There we go, saved $500,000. And it's pointing straight at this saddle where we want to cross over. This way we have to go up and down the least, and we have a nice long curve to come up. Same with this, it's already pointing. We'll curve around and come up that saddle. Okay, and I like the 2 rails building towards each other. You know what, let's come up this way because got a little more to go here. Let's go like this. Make sure the speed is all correct there, and there we go. So we've already done the most expensive part, and we've only spent $7 million. Okay, we're going to come in here to New Orleans. We are going to come off this. Okay, we want to get it as high as we can for as cheap as we can. There we go. Let's get a cargo station. We want it 1 bank. We want the extra street connection. We do not want to bulldoze any further buildings and increase the cost, so we'll put it in just like that. Now we have good access to a lot of the commercial market here. We can use this station to set up a trucking terminal and ship over to Jackson. So this is kind of like 2 cities in one. Oh, and we can do the same for Lake Charles here too, if we so desire. Okay, we're heading down there for the bridge. So let's loop around here. So far, so good. Okay, that drops down to 119. We can probably do a little better if we back it up. There we go. We'll just keep coming along here. Until our two tracks actually meet. Okay, take a look at the speed. Oh, that's pretty consistent. Okay. So, for about $8 million, we have this all set up. Okay, we'll get our rail depot set up out here. And now we will set up our lines. So our bumblebees will fly all the way out to New Orleans. And they will full load in Belmont, and we will call this the Houston. Okay, Houston to New Orleans route. Now there's a few different options of vehicles to get this thing rolling. We can purchase these Milwaukee classes, and they make a lot of money very quickly. So on the New Orleans to Houston's route, these can be very advantageous. On the other hand, if you want to get multiple oil wells open at the beginning of the game, these little, I call them Hachu trains, because that's just looks like what it's spelled, you know, but these Alco HH600s, they're very cheap, they're very inexpensive to run, and these are good if you're going to start with multiple ventures at the beginning. For the New Orleans run, we will be buying this really nice Milwaukee road train, road class. And that costs a lot of our money. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 5, 6. Okay, we'll have 6 of them. We're going to give it a nice bumblebee color. There we are. And we will set it on the Houston to New Orleans line. Okay. So, for our venture over here, since we have to come up with multiple vehicles, we're actually going to go with the little Hachu train, or the Alco HH600. There we are. So we have 2 oil tankers, which is a little excessive, and we have 2 cargo boxes. And I like the port, oh, we forgot to set up the line. I like the port colors to start with orange. So for the first line from here to here, we're not going to give it a load command because it's going to load at both ends. And that's why we have the 2 oil tankers. If you're not going to uncork an oil well right away, you can probably forego the oil tankers and put them on later. But I like to get at least one oil well uncorked right away. So that's what we'll do. It costs $3 million to uncork an oil well, so you have to have an excess of $3 million in order to uncork the oil well, purchase the trucks to truck in the oil, and then keep yourself floating in the meantime. So this is how much money we have for all that. So we can safely uncork one oil well for $3 million, and then we have $3.6 million to live on, buy trucks, and float until we begin to make a profit. Okay, this will be our port to terminal 01. Okay, and we will set this going there. Okay, and then we will come over here and we will rename these 2 stations. Terminal. Okay. So now we have our 2 trains going, and it takes a little while for them to kick in. In the meantime, we are going to set up with at least one oil well. So there's one oil well here that's along a road, and one oil well here that's along a road. However, with this oil well, I like to build a bypass for the city. And so that costs a little bit of money, so we'll forego that and we will set up at this Dallas oil well. And if you have the funds, it's nice to redo this road, but we're not going to do that. We're just going to take it as it is because we're going to be some cheapskates this time. So I like to build the large trucking station terminal at the oil well itself because I believe these can hold a larger amount of surplus goods on the dock. However, down here at our oil refinery, I prefer to use a small station because ideally they will not be holding any cargo on the dock. That'll change later, you'll see why, but for the most part they don't hold cargo. Okay, so we have $3 million. Let's go uncork this oil well. Well, we will do that shortly here. Hang on, we'll do that in a minute. But before we do that, let's get our trucking depot going. And what I want to do is set up this terminal out here for delivery to Jackson and Lake Charles. Because this is going, because we begin with this goods line, we want to stimulate as many goods lines as we can. So as we pool goods, the more consistently we pool the goods, the more the lines will increase production. So that's pretty easy to do. We'll connect this street here. We'll put our two large trucking terminals up here. Actually, we can do just the one large one, because we'll just have two lines. Now, for this, I prefer to do a bypass to Jackson, because otherwise the trucks have to go all the way down here and then out to Jackson. So bypassing this basically cuts it in half. So we will do that with just a small country road, and we'll try and build it in the least expensive way possible. We don't want to get too close to the railroad. As soon as we can afford it, we want to get multiple trains on this railroad. But in the meantime, since we're going with a very fast locomotive, that will be a while. If you start off with a little AH Alco 600 models, or the Hachu trains, these little Hachu trains, you're going to need to put multiple trains on the rails much faster because they go slower and they are lower capacity. However, with the one large engine, it'll buy us a few minutes. It'll buy us a little bit of time with just the one engine. Okay. Okay, so let's set up our route to Jackson. Okay, and since we just want a cheap route here into Jackson, we will simply set up a small trucking terminal, since it's simply for receiving, right here at the end of the street. And that gives us a good amount of coverage with the commercial market. So vehicles, let's see, vehicle charts. Oh, where is it? Vehicles, we'll give it a 5-minute. We'll give it a 10-minute wait. The train takes 14 minutes to make around. So this line isn't going to make us a whole lot of money. So, we'll call this Jackson Goods. This line isn't meant to make a whole lot of money. It is simply to pull as many goods from the port as possible. And at the beginning, that won't be a lot. However, later on, it will be more of a moneymaker. Okay, and so we want to just come in here to find the cheapest place we can put a terminal with access to the commercial market here. Right here, that's a good amount of commercial market. We'll take it. There we go, just like that. To here. Okay, so we'll call this Lake Charles goods. Okay. We'll have the vehicles wait up to 10 minutes for deliveries. And since we're not going to dispatch vehicles all the way from our other vehicle depot, we're going to set up a vehicle depot right here. Okay, and we will simply buy one vehicle for the Jackson good and one vehicle for Lake Charles. Okay, and we'll be color coding the vehicles this mission as much as possible, as that guy details. We'll go with the dark green. Okay. All right. So this train service is delivering to 3 different cities. So this is important. This will pull a lot of goods onto the terminal out here and keep us in business. Now, for the main event, we're going to go uncork this oil well here shortly. Okay, so begin mission. We just have one more setup phase here. We'll let the trains run for a little while.
Our business is developing splendidly. The stupid thing is that you never know in advance just how much crude oil there is in one place. You need to drill first, and that is terribly expensive. A company in Beaumont has developed a method of reliably predicting how much crude oil can be pumped from one area and whether drilling is worthwhile at all. We could purchase a license to use the said technology, but it's not exactly cheap.
Okay, we will not be purchasing this patent. There are, what is it, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 oil wells. Yeah, 9 oil wells available to drill. We are going to go for the oil baron metal, which is processed crude oil from all well locations on the land. So we're going to drill all the oil wells anyway. Plus, when you think about it, at $3 million a well, you can drill 5 wells for $15 million. So we could uncork 5 wells or a couple of trains like this for the 15 million. Since we're intending to open up all the wells anyway, it's kind of pointless, plus it's a ton of money. This is very valuable for when you simply want to get the export as much oil as possible as quickly as possible, because this will locate you the big fat 2,000 ton oil wells, and you can pull from them right away. But in our case, we're not going to use it, so we're going to run the risk. Okay, the main thing is simply not to let this train go away from us before it has decent cargo. Okay, so now, that being said, let's uncork our first oil well.
This is where the black gold is bubbling away here already. Hopefully we'll never run out. Otherwise, we'll probably have to breed new dinosaurs and then wait an eternity until they've transformed into crude oil.
Okay, Dallas Oil 01. Alright, so if you hit closed here, this chart will go away. So we want to keep that open because we want to keep an eye on the oil well. So we got our Dallas oil. Let's start off with 5 trucks. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now we want the oil well produces enough oil to load up a truck roughly every 90 seconds, a little more than 90 seconds. So we really don't want our frequency to be under 90 seconds. Otherwise, the trucks just end up waiting around for a long time. But we're at 4 minutes, so that's a little much. Let's try 2 more trucks, see what happens. We're down to 3 minutes. Let's try 2 more.
The money is slipping through our fingers, people. We'll soon be bankrupt.
There we go. That's good.
But if we're prepared to grovel on our hands and knees, our financiers will grant us a bridge loan.
Yeah, don't listen to that guy. Okay, so we'll just speed up the time here. So right now, this takes a little bit of time to load up this train with simply the one small train. But once we've achieved the first full load, by the time this train turns around from New Orleans, there'll be plenty of goods for it to pick up. So it's just the first time that it takes a while. Okay, we'll wait for one more load, and then we will send this train off on its merry way.
This has been JJ McGillicutty's Transporting Tycoon Empire on Total Corruption Gaming with your host, Eric Talon87. Join us again next time as JJ McGillicutty and company attempt to make a profit, save capitalism, and expand into the oil industry. See you there.